Thanks. You do use it.
Why don't we get discussion session under the way? Manager McGill, do you mind reviewing our agenda for this evening?
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight's agenda, we have the consideration of the award of a contract for a parking access revenue control system at the north parking garage. You'll hear more about that from our finance director. We have the consideration to ratify the manager's approval of a temporary chiller for the ice rink. Commission all received a memo on that issue, and I redistributed it this evening. And then also consideration for approval of a 3-year lease for 6 autonomous mowers at the golf course. That is all we have.
All right, thanks, sir. Updates on boards and authorities. Commissioner Flynn? Come back to me, sorry.
Brain wasn't there.
That's fine, that's fine.
Outreach had their board meeting this last week, elected a couple new board members. The gala did very well. I think they pulled in 150,000, so really successful, better than last year. And Mount Lebanon Historical Society, the prior meeting I went to, they were going over some of the programming that they're gonna do this summer with walking tours. And they got permit approved.
We have issued a permit.
To do the garage door so they can get the Hirsch fire truck in there, so, yeah, that's about it.
Now we just have to work on the roof.
Yeah. One issue at a time.
Yeah, I know. But, okay, let's see. I've got almost nothing here. Finance committee was canceled. I missed the library board meeting because I had to go to a MRTSA meeting, an emergency MRTSA meeting, because Doug DeForest resigned, and we were discussing, who's the executive director for the audience. We were discussing somebody to come in temporarily to keep MRTSA running while we did a search and how we were going to do the search. And that meeting to her perhaps finalize those decisions is tomorrow.
Commissioner Izzo, any updates?
Yes, the Civic Engagement Board will be taking part in Pride Lebo, which is this Saturday. They also decided to establish a new subcommittee, and so that would be partnering with the fire department. So it'll be great that they're doing some more work with that. It'll be modeled after their police engagement subcommittee, where they've done the coffee with the cop. That's been very successful. And then for the Uptown Partnership, the Uptown Market has started. So they're happy to be working with that, and that they're also planning on engaging with more of the business owners and tenants in Uptown to have more discussion about potential zoning changes. And that's it.
Excellent, thank you so much, Commissioner Izzo. Resiliency had a quieter meeting. We've got a planning meeting, a 2-hour-long planning meeting coming up at the end of this month. So we did a lot of prep work for that. A lot of great ideas were discussed to bring to that, but I want to hold off on discussing those until we, as a full advisory board, have a chance to talk about what priorities are going to come out of the subcommittees. But there's a lot of good ideas to come, and at that time, we're also going to vote on the board chair, vice chair. So otherwise, pretty quiet. Moving on to the audit review. Representatives from Honor and Tuzel.
Natalie and Healy are here. Give you a little introduction. That not work. That does not work. Come on. Do I have to do it this way?
Sometimes you yell at it.
Yes. Okay, so.
Bang your fist, it works.
And why aren't you presenting?
Okay.
Anybody?
For this deal? It's popping up in the.
Yes. Okay, we're just gonna go with slides. Here we go.
This is
All right, that's good. So thank you, President Ziegler. I introduced Natalie Capone and Haley Street, who are here to present on the results of the 2025 audit. Just so the audience knows, the annual comprehensive financial report was released in early April, has been on the website for little over almost 2 months now. So they're here to present on the results of the audit. We do this every now and then. We haven't done it in a couple years, so we thought it'd be good for 2 new commissioners to hear from the auditors on our results of our audit. Take it away.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for having us this evening. I'm Natalie Capone. I'm a principal with Mara Dissel. I'm going to go through the first few slides here, which are our required audit communications. A little bit of background. Andrew had mentioned the annual comprehensive financial report was issued final in early April. We do come on site at the beginning of February and work through the end of February and work through the end of February, early March on our audit procedures and turn all of the audit reports around for finalization. The DCD is issued by the end of March, and then the ACFR follows in early April. So that is a very quick turnaround for government financial statements to be ready to go. So that's a testament to Andrew and his team. So I just want to thank him for all of his hard work and getting everything ready and prepared for us so that when we come on site, we're ready to go through all our procedures and it's a really smooth audit process.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to distribute those?
Oh yeah, if you guys need a paper copy, they can for sure.
So our responsibility for the audit does fall under U.S. generally accepted auditing standards, and we perform our procedures to provide a reasonable basis for our opinion. We do not audit 100% of all of the municipalities' transactions. We use risk-based approach and sampling methods to determine what to audit and what transactions to review. We did issue an unmodified audit opinion, which is the highest level of assurance we can offer as auditors that the financial statements are fairly presented. So that's a clean audit opinion, what you want to see as governance in your financial statements. And as a reminder, our audit does not relieve the commission or management of their responsibilities to ensure the financial statements are fairly presented. We do assist in drafting the reports. However, those are reviewed and approved by management to demonstrate their approval of the content, that they agree with all of the information within.
It's a good team effort.
As far as significant accounting policies, it's been a little quiet on the GASB side. There was a new statement adopted in the 2025 financial statements on certain risk disclosures. Fortunately, this did not have a significant impact on the municipality's financial statements. This government auditing standard or government accounting standard related to if you had any significant constraints or concentrations, if your revenue was concentrated in one type of activity or you had constraints on where your revenue could come from. So no impact to your disclosures on that statement. No sensitive accounting estimates were noted in the statements, and the most significant disclosures are listed here. So note 8 on the pension, note 9 on the other post-employment benefit obligation, and then note 14 on the PA Department of Environmental Protection consent order commitments and obligations. So the rest of our communications are exception-based, so we're pleased to report we had no difficulties in performing the audit. We had no audit adjustments. That means the financial information you're seeing throughout the year is what was reflected in the financial statements. We did not have to adjust the numbers to get them in compliance with accounting standards. We had no disagreements with management. We do obtain representations from management when we finalize the statements, and to our knowledge, management did not have any consultations with other accountants because it did not look what we had to say on a given matter. Just as a reminder, the reports that are part of the engagement include the ACFR, that's a big annual comprehensive financial report, the DCD, to the state, the legal ad that's published, and then there's a separate legal ad for the IDA. We do an audit of the real estate tax collector, and then there's an opinion that's submitted to ACLA for the library activities. Any questions on those communications before I turn it over to Haley to do some of the financial highlights?
Okay, that's good. I will jump down into the fund financial statements here. So we just have a high-level overview of your financial statements. No, everything is in much greater detail in your full financial statements, but this is just kind of the high-level overview. The first slide here goes over your general fund balance, and it shows the amounts that are broken out for assigned, non-spendable, and assigned. At the end of the year, you had about $7.8 million in unassigned fund balance, which is a very healthy number. It's very consistent with where you guys have been at in prior years. On the next slide here, it goes over the trends of your general fund balance. So we have a column for each year of the last 5 years. So you will see that there was an increase in your fund balance in the general fund for 2025 of about 1.1 million. This was largely due to just increased tax revenue and decreases in your capital expenditures just due to timing and punting some projects into 2026. Overall, 2024 and 2023, even though they are negative amounts in the general fund balance change, that was anticipated. Not everything was budgeted for. It wasn't like there was something out of the ordinary that caused that. And I will point out that 2022, with the significant increase to 2.7 million, that was the year that you received all the ARPA funds and recognized those. So that was kind of an extraordinary circumstance. And in the bottom here, it does go over your unassigned fund balance as a percentage of your total revenues. For 2025, we're sitting at about 17.7%, which is very consistent across the board for you. The next slide here goes over the budget to actual. You guys do a great job with your budgeting every year. You'll see that most everything is very consistent. You will see that your taxes did perform better than budget for 2025. This has been pretty consistent over the last several years. You've had increases in your earned income tax and increases in your real estate transfer tax, even with no increase in your tax rate. So overall, things have been very consistent. You guys have been having great performing budget to actual for the last several years. The next slide goes over your expenditures in the same way. You'll see that public safety is by far and large your largest expense area, which that does include a lot of projects that have happened during the last several years. So those amounts have been very consistent, and like we said before, the budget to actual is spot on every year. Next slide is just kind of a summary of your other governmental funds. Within your other governmental funds, you have about 18.3 million in fund balance. Of that amount, about 15.8 of that is restricted for capital projects. So that's tied up in existing property, existing capital projects, and projects that are issued with debt, and those are planned to be expended for capital.
Yeah, so as far as for that, it's our debt service and our sewage fund.
So why is there a restricted amount for the library and also an assigned amount? What's the difference?
So one's for the donors, that has a restriction
Okay.
due to donors, is
Okay.
that portion, and then there's an assigned portion for everything else that's left.
Thanks.
And then the next section is your government-wide financial statements that looks at the total of the municipality as a whole. So we just have some trend graphs here for you. Of your governmental activities, the top line is your revenue and the bottom line is your expense. So you'll see that as your revenues have been increasing over the last 5 years, your expenses have as well. But overall, you guys have been very strategic with that. So revenues have been going up, you've been taking on more projects, but you're never out leveraging what you have in revenues. The next slide is a similar comparison, but with your business type activities. This is the parking fund. This one has a bit more volatility year to year. You'll see 2021 there wasn't a lot of people out and about, a lot of pandemic related issues. So there wasn't a whole lot of parking revenue or expense that year. And then in 2024, you'll see that the expenses did increase a good bit over where they currently are and how they have historically been. That was due to the feasibility study for the South Garage that's currently under construction. So that was a big undertaking that was planned to kind of see where the garage would go in the future years. The next slide here goes over your long-term debt. Overall, you'll see that the gray category is your largest. That's your bonds payable. The blue that starts in 2022 is related to your net pension liability. Actually, it's an asset. Do I go ahead? Yeah, it's an asset in 2025. No, blue is parking. Oh, there's two blues. There's two blues. Okay, the really tiny
The really tiny one
at the very top that you can't see from our screen is the parking bonds. And the bigger blue at the bottom is your net pension liability. Sorry about that. The colors are hard to read there. But so you will see that the net pension liability did go away for 2025. That's largely due to actuarially determined valuations. So you guys do have a net pension asset for your police, administrative and firefighter plan for 2025. So that amount is decreased. And then you did issue some long-term debt over the last several years. Speaking of your net pension liability and assets, this here breaks out your net pension asset if it's in parentheses, liability if it is not, for each of your different plans. So you'll see that your general, police, and firefighter plan are all over 100% funded. So you guys are at a great point with all of your plans. And the OPEB is a much smaller dollar amount that's 85% funded. So each year that will continue get better as long as the market continues to thrive.
So before we leave this slide, just want to add that this is based on market value of our assets. This is not based on the smoothing that we use for actuarial purposes, for our actuarial studies that we use for our MMOs, or minimum municipal obligation, that you'll see during budget time. So Nick and Commissioner Izzo, you guys haven't seen that yet. So this number is just, when we do our financial statements, we have to do it on market value of assets, not on a smooth assets, meaning highs are smoothed out over 4 years as well as lows are smoothed out over 4 years, where this is what it was at that moment in time. So it's a little different when it comes to budgetary, putting money into the pension plans.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the next slide here goes over kind of that idea. So at the end of 2025, your discount rate that was used for all 4 of your plans was 7%. So in the columns here, it shows the impact that if you would have a 1% increase in returns or a 1% decrease in returns, kind of showing the sensitivity of your plans to the market and what could happen. So as we've seen over the last several years, things have been relatively volatile, but there have also been significant increases. So as the market continues to do well, you guys will be in even better of a position. But you do have some wiggle room if the market would have a down year.
Could you tell me what the OPEB?
Yes, that's another post-employment benefit. So that relates to typically health-related expenses that the municipality will pay for after someone retires. And I'll hand it over to Natalie to go over pending pronouncements.
Yeah, there's a few pending pronouncements coming up for your December 31st, 2026 financial statements. There are 2 standards that you'll have to implement, the bigger one being the financial reporting model and improvements. So it's a reporting refinement. It's not going to impact how you record things in your books, how you see things, how anything operates. It's really refining the reporting model. There'll be a tightening up of the MD&A to follow a prescribed structure for that management discussion and analysis. There'll be some impact to the parking fund as the business type activities have now a set format they must follow in the financial statements. We'll work through Andrew with that to kind of get all of that implemented before we get into the reporting for 2026. But again, not an impact to what you'll see on a daily budgeting level or within the general fund, more just on the year-end reporting. And then disclosure of certain capital assets. This relates really to if you had assets held for sale or any intangible assets, there's new requirements on how those are disclosed within your footnotes. In the subsequent event standard that's coming in 2027, that just has guidance on what is recognized as a subsequent event for recording in the financial statements.
And then the last slide just has our contact information. If you need to get in contact with us or if you don't remember that, Andrew can get you in touch with us if you have any questions.
Any questions from the commission for Natalie or Haley?
I know that we got a pretty glowing report, so that's wonderful. But anything you see on the horizon that we should be aware of, or any concerns at all that weren't? Everything good?
No, very clean audit. So if we had any issues, they would be, there would be a separate letter called a management recommendation letter where we would go over any material weaknesses in internal control or significant deficiencies in internal control. And then there's a third category that's not considered that level, that's another matter, best business practice. We, for as long as I've been on the audit, I don't know that we've had a management letter. Things are operating very smoothly, good controls, segregation of duties, no issues from an audit standpoint on things that need addressed. But if there were anything, it would be communicated in writing. But it's not that you didn't get a copy of it or we didn't talk about it. There was no issues noted during the year that rose to the level of being communicated in writing.
Pretty excellent. Yeah, that's great news.
No news is good news.
Exactly.
In this case, yeah.
Commissioner Flynn, you love the numbers. Nothing? You got nothing for us?
No, it's exactly what I would expect from Andrew.
Right.
He always does an amazing job, and I've stared at more than my share of audits. I don't need to comment anymore.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. This is excellent information.
Thank you for having us.
Yep. All right, so that being said, the next topic is for us as well, which is about the 2026 bond issue, which it's perfect that Natalie and Haley were here because 2 of those items were one we disclose and have our audit done in early April. Oh, new ones. Rudy, where's he at? He's not in here. These are for you, Rudy. Is that we do our financial statements and they're done early April, and our disclosures to bondholders are done in early April as well. So that's all part and parcel to them being ready for a debt issuance like the 2026 debt issuance. And so that being said, I'll introduce Alicia and Ron Brown. Alicia Henry and Ron Brown. So this is tonight's meeting is for Alicia to kind of go over the bond market, see where we're at, kind of structure and timing of what we've been looking at for the 2026 bond issue. And we can go over any projects or anything after that if you'd like, if we have time this evening. And then Ron is from Dickey McCamey, and he would be our bond counsel for our debt issuance. This was the same team we had last year for the 2025 bond issue. And so we thought we'd bring the party back together for our needs for 2026. So I'll let Alicia take it away for a brief overview of where we're at for the 2026 bond issue.
Thank you, Andrew. Good evening, Commissioners and Administration. It's nice to be before you again. I always like to start my presentations with where you are before we go show you where you're going. And it was nice to hear your glaring audit review, and that is no surprise. On page 1, I've summarized your 4 series of bonds outstanding, the 16s, the series 2019, 2020A, and the recent bond issue we closed last year, 2025. The original par or principal amount issued is column 1. Column 2 is the outstanding balance as of June 9th, because you do have staggering maturities. So the only bond payment you've made this year is the 2025. The current balance outstanding right now is $20,580,000. The final maturity dates and the call dates. Your first 3 bond issues are officially callable, but you'll see they're very beautiful average weighted coupon of 3% being your highest being paid, with the exception to the 2025 that we issued last year at an average weighted coupon of 4.34. For those of you who don't like numbers, I always like to do a bar chart, and you can see your debt service budget on an annual basis for the current fiscal year going out to 2040, which is the 2025 bonds, which we took out 15 years to allow for future projects as they come online. Any questions on page 1? Moving forward to page 2, an overview of a bond financing. You're exploring options to fund upcoming capital projects, and tax-exempt general obligation bonds do provide the most flexible, cost-effective financing option at this time. The 2026 proposed structure would wrap around your existing debt service to minimize budgetary impacts. And using the multi-financing approach enables you to fund projects over time with your capital plan schedules, and it does eliminate any unnecessary interest costs right now. These bonds will be bank qualified and will have the standard 5-year redemption feature, so these bonds will be callable in 2031. And I commend the Commission and Administration for maintaining your AA2 excellent bond rating by Moody's, which actually, as you mentioned, Andrew, they sent you something recently. They just reviewed your rating in April. The funding of a bond issue takes 75 to 90 days, and federal tax law requires a commitment to spend 5% of the bond proceeds within 6 months and 85% within 3 years. Page 3 is an example pro forma of the proposed Series 2026 with a current project size of $8 million. The existing debt service is your debt outstanding as of today on the left-hand side going out to 2040. We showed many different wrap structures to Andrew, and we've settled on the structure that goes through 2036. We do have a steep part of the yield curve that we're going to try to not wrap out to. So we are wrapping shorter on this bond issue than we did the 2025. Still leaves you a lot of step downs for future projects. The principal due will stay May 1st. Potential closing date is September 1st. And the budgetary impact with 50 basis points of buffer, being conservative given the rate volatility, is currently $390,000. With an all-in TIC, which includes all cost of issuance, of 4.275 And that's really where you see the 0.5% of buffer. So this page focuses on the 2026. I was also asked to present to the commission two different future borrowings. Page 4 is a $15 million project that looks forward to 2028. And page 5 will show a three-phase $18 million project size. So they're two different project sizes, so no real comparison. So on page 4 on the left-hand side, you'll see the footnote. This existing total debt service does assume you issue the 2026 bonds and a $15 million project size. We are able to wrap that in to your first step down. So you'll see the $15 million. We have to extend the debt out just a little to 2041, but it does completely fill your debt service. If you look at the projected total debt service, starting in fiscal year 2031, we would fill to just below that $3.7 million from top to bottom, other than the tail piece that we need. But the $15 million would only create a budgetary impact of $120,000 if you do wait to fiscal year 28, because that is when the step down is available.
So just to add to what Alicia's saying, so this was what was requested during the recreation feasibility and project discussion, as we would bring before you during this process, so you had the full information of what would look like with 26 and with a potential 28 at these two sizes. One being the 15 million if we took it all out in 1 year, and then if we phased it, which would be the next page, I'll let Alicia explain that, but then saying, okay, well, we're only going to take it out and do it over multiple years, and what that financing would look like.
Thank you, Andrew. And then flipping to page 5, this is an $18 million total project over a 3-year period starting in 2028 to 2030. And again, the gray column does assume that you issued the 2026 bonds as projected, but then forecasts out to 2028. And the phase 1 in 2028 would be an $8 million project that would have roughly a $65,000 budgetary impact, would fit in the 2040 final maturity and start filling in some of the step downs that we have. Phase 2 in 2029 of $6.5 million, again, layers in the interest and then fills in the 2037 to 40 for, I guess you could argue, a $55,000 budgetary impact, but truly, we're now taking the budgetary impact over and above what you have in your budget in fiscal year 28. And then the $3.5 million bond issue in 2030 would then, we'd be done with our wrap, and it would cause a budgetary impact of $275,000 at the way we have illustrated it. But during this time, we may talk to Andrew about other projects, and would we extend the final maturity? At this point, it'd be a 10-year bond issue, and we would, of course, re-examine how we wrapped these with every project that you do to leave room for future projects if necessary.
Any questions on kind of the structures we're looking at for 26, then leading into the information that you would then need for decisions in 28 and future?
Well, as I'm sure you're all aware, the market has been just a pleasure to work in this year. The tariff tantrums last year, and now we're dealing with huge inflationary pressures due to the Iranian conflict. Rate expectations have dramatically shifted from projected multiple cuts to now pricing and possibility of a rate hike. This changes daily. The futures market is now currently pricing in a 65% chance of a rate increase by the October 26th meeting and fully pricing in a rate hike by December 26th. So I think what Andrew and I were inkling about before the meeting started is we were kind of having sort of a lackadaisical approach to how quickly we would move through this process, and now maybe we'll work with a little bit of more urgency to give me a little more latitude to watch the market and see what's going to unfold. And obviously we all are watching the Strait of Hormuz and the pressures involved with energy and those types of things. So authorizing early, knowing you're going to do this, but giving me the latitude to work with Andrew and watch the market will eliminate maybe some stress to get this done in a market where maybe it's not ideal.
Andy, what's our timing? When do we really need the cash?
We really don't need the cash until late in the year.
Yeah, so we're not in any hurry.
No, we're not.
So we can wait and see if things get better or get worse.
Well, yeah, it's gonna happen no matter what, but.
Yeah.
you know.
Whether, but do you need the money in 2026?
Depends on the timing of other projects, but the majority of it we do not need in 26.
Well, that's what we would watch, but I do know, what I don't know is will they get better or will they get worse? And
Right.
that's
I
why
mean,
I'm
who
saying,
knows?
maybe if we're authorized in July, we would take a pause, but maybe in another month I would know more.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
certainly will not rush you into a market you don't want to be, I would take your thoughts as to timing and weigh the pros and cons of waiting.
Okay. Any other questions on the presentation? All right, so this meeting really is the kickoff for us. So we'll engage with PNC Capital Markets and Alicia and Ron Brown and Vicky McKamey. We'll get all that paperwork squared away and taken care of. Say again?
2 questions.
Yes.
What are your fees and what are your fees?
I charge $5 a bond, and that's a standard.
Yeah, our fees are a lump sum for the transaction. I think we've been around $15,000 to $16,000 on our fees.
Awesome, thank you.
No, and I can
Just
say
very
without
good.
a shadow of a doubt,
That is very
that's
good.
tens of thousands of dollars less than what
No,
we typically
I
see.
know, no, I work with bond counsel all the time. That is exceptional.
We have a good team here and we get it done, so it should be fine. So we'll start that process moving forward. For the commission purposes, we will need to talk about sizing. We've talked about 8 million, but
Right.
we do need to talk about money that's still sitting from the 2025 bond issue, that we need to talk about how we want to either repurpose that or use that funds, because we may not use all 85% of it as noted
Right,
in that
right.
3-year time
Right.
period. So that may not be a discussion for tonight, but we definitely need to talk about that before we finalize the sizing for this issue for it, so. But, any other questions on that?
All right, seems good.
Okay, awesome,
very
thanks
much.
guys.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Izzo, I will send you the presentation via email tomorrow. So you're
right,
not
thank you.
blind to what we're, so you can envision it and picture it again.
All right, thank you.
You're running ahead. Looks like you're up again.
And I'm up again, yes. All right, thanks, Ron.
Thank you very much.
All right, so.
You can take twice as long on this one. You're very,
We can, I don't know why
It
it's
is gonna
not
be so
showing.
fascinating, you know.
Yes. Thank you again. Last one for me for this evening, I promise. But on tonight's regular agenda, we have an approval for a parking access revenue control system, more known as PARCS system, which is very aptly named, even though it doesn't have an K. The north garage is really what we're up for. To replace a system that we replaced in 2016. So it's 10 years old. That is the typical useful life for a parking access revenue control system. And we're starting to see our controls in the north garage start to fail. We're also seeing it in the south garage as well. If you've gone to the north or south garage at any given time, you may be using a Square device. We're all familiar with what a Square device is, one of those handhelds.
Yeah.
That is outside that system because we're routinely having the credit card system go down. Where a UCD device is what they call it, is in the neighborhood of $2.5 to $3 grand to replace, and we have to wait for it to come in because it's 10 years old. So that's where we're at with it. So we're talking about the north garage, upper garage entrance. We're not talking about the south garage, given that we have plans for the south garage
Right.
here in the near future. So any equipment that we have that can be used in north garage, that can be salvaged, can be used in the south garage. So they
Oh,
are
that's
plug and
smart.
play.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we're
that's
gonna make a boneyard of those, so it's not, those aren't gonna be lost. We'll be able to use those to make sure that we limp the south garage equipment along.
That's the credit card scanners and the unit that the
Yes.
people use to,
Yep, That's the in lane, it's the gates, it's everything that you get in and out with the garage. So I don't have any pretty pictures on this one, just kind of want to bullet point for why it needs to be replaced. It's reached the end of the useful life. The number one thing that we had day one is we have to manually update the permits to all the garages. So there's no automated FTP server that we send it to and it uploads. There's none of that. So we are going to be going with a system that we'll talk about tonight that already has that integration because it's the same company as our permitting system. So that was one of the reasons why, not the only reason why, but one of those reasons why. We talked about the credit card UCD failures. Those can be upwards of $2,500 to $3,500 a pop to replace, depending if we can find a refurbished one or if we have to wait for something to be manufactured. We have 4 at the north garage, so those can then be used at the south garage because each of those in-lane devices and the standalone machine that you pay on foot all have the same device inside of it.
Oh, cool.
So we can use those and boneyard those into the south garage as well, so on and so forth. So we have inside the current is ticket rolls and printers, right? So if you can imagine inside the system, not to get too much into it, but it's a manual system with a ticket spitter. So you can imagine we order 5,000 tickets at a time that sit on a huge roll, and inside they start chopping off as they use them. That has a propensity to jam and all those different things. The newer technology that you'll see that we are going to be going to is all QR code and all laser printing. So we're not having to deal with big ticket rolls, anything like that. It's just thermo plastic paper that comes out and you'll have your tickets and all that stuff.
So it still gives you a ticket.
It can, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Still gives you a ticket. So we still need that for patrons that are coming in and so on and so forth. But we'll talk about that here in a second, a little bit more. The technology's outdated. It's not cloud-based, which is one of the big things and big upsells that are on the new equipment. It's not cloud-based. The technology is just, 10 years old. So it really hasn't changed in the 10 years we've had it, so it's time to move on. Talked about the on-premise. There's an on-premise server for that. And there's limited adaptability. From day one, this system really doesn't have the maneuverability that you may want in a system. So that is like when you close down a gate or you have a holiday rate or any things that we weren't able. We were actually scared that if we ever wanted to change rates in the system, that it may take 6 to 8 weeks before we can get it right. We've gone through the software companies and done the demos that should alleviate that issue for it. So so that's where we're at. So what are we moving to? We're moving to a company called T2, just to let you know about what we've gone through. So of course we have the existing company, which we don't want their technology anymore. Then we looked at 3 systems. We looked at T2 systems, which is the one we're recommending. We also looked at PSX, which sells Amano McGann equipment. We also looked at them. And then we also looked at a company through Butts Ticket Systems, which is who sells our meters on the streets, all the street meters. So we looked at all 3 of them. We demoed the PSX and the T2 systems. PSX is throughout the city. You will see them if you park at any garage in the city. There's a lot of PSX and Amano McGann equipment. The T2 systems are at Carnegie Mellon. They're at Duquesne. So they're here, they're in the city. And one of the issues we had in going with them was they're getting a bigger presence here, and they just are hiring a technician just for Western Pennsylvania. So we should have support, not to say that we're far, they're in Ohio, but we should have more dedicated support because they're having more of a presence at Carnegie Mellon and Duquesne, so we should be able to reap the benefits from that as well. So with the new equipment, what is it? It's cloud-based software that you can imagine, right? So those are all those bells and whistles that you get having a cloud-based, from any browser, we'll be able to control the garages and do a much better job that way. We'll have mobile payment options. We don't have that currently. So when you pull into the garage, you'll be able to get your ticket, and on your ticket will be a QR code that you can scan and paste directly from your phone. You don't need to do anything else, right? You can just pay for your phone, and you can walk to your car and leave.
Nice.
Okay, so those types of things. We've also looked at integrations with existing platforms we have, like Park Mobile and Passport. They don't really make sense for our garage. We don't do permit reserve. It's more of a reserve type situation, and we don't do those types of things. So that's generally what their integrations are for, but we will have a mobile payment option, which will be a huge boon for us, because the pay on foot station will still be there and be available for people, but those that can just pay on their phone, like I was just at the Children's Museum a couple weeks ago, I just scanned the QR code and walked away. Now you just have it in your pocket, you scan your QR code and you're done. Especially for after 6 p.m. where it's a flat rate, or on Sunday when it's a flat rate, you can just scan it as soon as you get out of the car. You don't have to worry about it on the way back in.
Saturday is a flat rate, Sunday's free.
Right.
You just
Right.
said that Sunday was a flat rate, Sunday's free.
So Saturday's a flat rate, but after 6.
Ah,
After 6, it's $2. So, yeah, so there's those types of things
Yeah.
that you'll have that ability to do that you may not be able to do
How
now.
does that activate the gate if you do it mobile on your phone?
Because it's all based on that QR, because that QR code timestamps or stamps your ticket so that when you scan the QR code to get out, it knows that that
Oh,
ticket's been
gotcha.
validated.
Then you gotta keep that. Okay.
Yep, you just take it, keep it in your pocket and you're out.
and it's really adaptable, so if we wanted to do a special rate, we can do one
Correct.
easily. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was one of the main selling points in both. I mean, the PSX, Mount McGann is good equipment
Yeah.
too. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong, there was nothing wrong with that. I think we would be good if we went down that road, but there's some other bad benefits to the T2 systems in that it integrates with our permitting software.
Right.
And that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So we have a QR code based ticket system. Sorry. This is right in my eye,
Sorry.
yeah. Apologize. If you've been in any recent garages that have upgraded equipment, you should see this and be familiar with this. It has adaptable permit options. So one of the things we struggle with right now are people using the same permit twice. So they have one permit. One of the struggles we've always had is what's called anti-passback, to where you can scan and then go in and then bring your other car and scan it, and then we have to manually check for those. So this system will allow for, yes, there's some people that try to park 3 cars in the garage under one permit, and we boot them. So we get them. Our parking division is fantastic, so don't try that at home. Anybody, we will get you. But what this will do is that no matter if you have a card or the QR code system now, is that you actually don't need a parking card anymore.
Yeah.
You can actually just store the QR code that comes with your permit and just scan it from your phone the entire time. Now, we're still gonna offer the card, they'll be free of charge, we don't charge an upcharge for anything for that, but that'll be available as well.
Sure.
So there'll be 2 access points. There are other options to getting into a garage. We don't really have that chain where there's people waiting a long time, but there could be, there is an additional software where they do a proximity reader within your car that it just knows when you get up there, there's a reader reading it, and it just opens the gate if you're a permit holder. It also does license plate if you want it to. We've opted not to do those. We can always add those in the future if we deem that it is. But we feel that the instantaneous, you buy a permit now, you have to wait for us to get a card. So if you bought it on a Friday at 5:30, you're not getting your card till Monday, and you can't get in the garage. You'd have to manually show it to. Well, now if you bought it at Friday at 5:30, you'll have a QR code to get in and out of the garage instantaneously. Or whatever duration we tell it to upload. At the very least, the next morning, you'll be able to get it out. So we have the anti-passback, like I told you, the adaptable permit options. So that you can have one permit with multiple cars, but you can't get multiple cars in at one time. You can only have one in and one out. You have to have an out to get an in when you're doing it. So those types of things. Talked about the integration with the permit software. We'll now have the ability, if we so choose, to have offline and gate down options. And what I mean by that is the offline right now, it's truly offline. Like nothing happens. That's part of the outdated technology to where the gates go up. That's just what happens, right? We've got to go gates up to get you out of the garage.
Right.
Whereas now they have a backup to where when it's offline, it can still, on an LAN type of environment, can talk to each other and still run the gates, run your credit cards, everything like that without being online. So that's nice. The other options are gate down options. I don't know if you are late enough in the garages or not, but gates go up at 11.
Yeah.
So right now, we don't do gates down. right? So if you are exiting at 11:30, it's gate down, or gate up, and we don't know if you park there for 15 days, we do know. I should say, park there for 2 days or 1 hour. We don't know the difference, and we wouldn't know that difference. There are people that try and cheat that system, that try and leave before our cashier gets there in the morning while the gates are up before they go gate down. So,
All for $5 or whatever, I mean, come on.
yeah, yes, they do it. So as part of this, we have now the ability to, with a third-party service, to be able to, where it doesn't then infringe upon our watch command,
Yes.
that we could do watch command. I'm not saying that, we would do that, or parking personnel, but there's also the ability also to integrate with a third party to handle that kind of gate down system. We're not saying we're going to do that,
Right.
but that is one option, and again, more adaptability that we have within the system. In addition, if we do decide to go to gates down, we will have better inventory counts. The current system cannot give us an accurate inventory count. We have to manually do it to update the inventory counts. So we know who's in the garage and so on and so forth. So capacity sometimes at North Garage can be an issue. So at various times during the year, and during the day and during the year, we do need more accurate inventory counts. So that's one. Lastly, this system, we're trying to think of expandability. So if, depending what happens with the South Garage, of course, we would, be able to, we think we have a system that we can expand with.
In the Beverly Garage.
The Beverly Garage, yes, but for sure, if we build a like structure with the South Garage, we feel T2 will be a good partner and will be there for us if and when we get there. But the big one we want to talk about, as you're going to see in the capital improvement plan, is the North Garage lower. So as you saw with this presentation, I talked about the upper.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, there is a lower with 48 spots on Parsway. The biggest issue with that is the bird droppings. Is probably the biggest reason why people don't want to park down there. And so one of the capital improvement plans in preparation for parking being not at the South Garage for a period of time
Right.
is to make that a more desirable place to
Sure.
park. How do we do that? We enclose it. So as part of enclosing that, we've talked to T2 about the potential for making that a parking access revenue control area, right? To get in and out. With either a garage door or some sort of gating system that would work with that once you're inside of it. Then it automatically opens.
I'm just
And then there's a gate
envisioning it.
behind that.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. So you will see that in the capital improvement plan, will be that project. And as part of that, we've talked to T2 and they, as part of this proposal was, hey, what would that expandability look like? So we feel we have a partner that could do that. For a lot type situation.
So as a constant user of both the North and South Garage, I have to say this is good because I have been there when that parking stuff goes down, and it happens quite frequently where the controls go down, you can't get in or out kind of stuff. It's, it's old.
Yeah, it is. And when we looked at this hardware in 2016, we went down to First Avenue Garage.
Yeah, sure.
And they had just replaced it, and they've replaced theirs, right? So they're obviously a much heavier user than we are, but they just replaced theirs a couple years ago. So we're a couple years behind them. They reached the end of their useful life as well. But interesting, they sold their equipment back in 2014 to Station Square. So Station Square used that for another 10 years. So it's just interesting how you can try and limp this equipment along, but I think it's time for us to move it along. In addition, there's some other availability is with validation, so online validation. So, we have doctor's offices, hair salons, and those that have the ability.
Validation,
We will be
sure.
exploring, I'm not saying we're going to do anything different than we do, but we will explore the ability to have them do it themselves. Right now, we have an encoder downstairs that makes a lot of noise and takes a long time to produce validations, where it sits in one of those big rolls. It's actually in a box, but imagine a big roll that then encodes every ticket. And we're talking about thousands upon thousands of tickets that we do that for. So we probably do 50,000 of those a year, 50,000 tickets a year. So you can imagine a roll of 5,000 and it just sits there and does it all day. so on and
So
so
it's less
forth.
paper.
It's way less, and you can print it on a sheet of white paper, you know what I mean, and hand them out. It's those types of things. So reducing some of our office load as well, to be able to do that, we obviously have the ability to bill it out if we choose to do it that way, depending on what we do, so. So that's the nuts and bolts of what you're approving tonight, potentially.
What are cost expectations for the system and what do you think revenue? I mean, I would assume that.
The revenue impact, okay, so the cost for the system's $140,000, that you have then the ongoing costs, which will be, $12,000 to $15,000 a year for warranties and, and all those different things. Revenue impacts, if we go gates down, I believe we will have a revenue impact of 20 to 30 grand. I do,
Nice.
yes, I do think we would have that. But there's also a perception that we've always done it this way, so there's something we would have to build on top of, Do I think we should go gates down? Yes, if you want my honest opinion, but we need to do it right so it's not a load on us as staff. And see what that hedge is for outsourcing the 11P to 7A if someone were stuck and said they can't get out or don't have payment and those types of things. So we need to work through that. That's not a year one priority. If we get to it year one, great. But our implementation will be sometime in September. So that's when we're projecting to have this
So you
live.
still have the attendants in the booth?
Yes.
I like them all, so that's.
Yeah.
they're my
Well, no,
favorites.
it's a customer service thing.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing that people have
Yeah.
and like about our garages.
Yeah,
I
they're
would
all
agree with that.
pleasant, sure.
I think Mark and his staff do an excellent job, and I don't think we go away from that.
Yeah.
It's a front facing, it's another opportunity for us as a municipality to be in front of people, so.
Perfect.
I had two questions. So since this is cloud-based, will that give us the ability to tell somebody that has an app or has something, how many spaces are available in the garage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but again, that's only if we go gates down. Yeah, so I'm just making sure that's crystal clear. If we don't go gates down, we're not gonna count cars every day. Yeah.
And then the second question is more just a curiosity. So if we have a power outage, will those gates automatically lift? Are they set up that way?
No, so they'll all be on backup power.
Okay.
So they'll all have battery backup for every station, and I believe it's 10 hours. So after 10 hours, then we would have to do something. I believe it's 10 hours. But everything will batch once they come back online, so we can still collect credit cards, all those types of things. And we could do that now when it happened, but it just wasn't, it didn't function very well. So we would always have it go gates up, but we have the ability to make it go gates up if we want, if that's what we choose to do, but we can also leave them gates down. So if it happens in the middle of the day,
Right.
the cashier may not even know, besides the cashier booth maybe being down, but those are all on battery backup too, so it should be fine. So we're excited about it. I think our staff here is most excited about it, although it's only half, so we're still gonna have to do manual until something happens with the south garage. But that adaptability or,
Sure.
ease of use with permitting. Now, North Garage is not as big of a permit holder clientele as the South Garage. So I think the bigger impacts to the North Garage will be those that are transient in nature. I think they're going to appreciate the ability to pay on their phone, not have to ever interact with the machine outside of just scanning it on the way out, grabbing a ticket and scanning it on the way out. They don't have to touch a machine other than that. In addition, I think some of the tenants of the Cyclops building, we will have more availability for their validations. And I think that'll be a good customer service because we're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole when it comes to what their needs are. And I think we can both serve better to doing that for them as well. So we're excited for that for the North Garage. Any other questions?
When is the new cast going in over in Beverly?
We were planning on that in February, but they're stuck on a ship.
Interesting.
Yes, we're having a struggle getting it here to the US.
Okay.
Yes, they're on order, they're here. We actually have 2 machines on Washington Road that need to be replaced. So we have 6 machines coming, and we're having a tough time getting them shipped. Yeah, so we keep following up with them every month, so. But it's out of the hands of the reseller at this point.
Yeah.
It's a shipping issue on the
Chief,
supplier.
can you make a call? Get some straits opened up or something?
Sure.
A lot of people would appreciate that. Excellent.
All right.
Yeah,
Good information. Thank you so much.
thanks.
Are you done, Andrew?
I'm
I
done.
thought this was all you.
That's it, that's all you got from me.
You get credit for the last presentation.
Does anybody like a pen that
No,
was
thanks.
dropped off?
No.
Rudy will take all of them.
Yes, Rudy will take all of them. I'm sorry, Rudy.
Righty. Mine's not as riveting as Andrew's. Try to do your best. Put some life into it.
It's more positive, it's not necessarily, it's a lot more savings aspect, I would say. So, okay, we can see, all right, should be able to go. There we go. Okay, all righty, so I am here to give an update on the electric vehicle charging stations that we have been discussing for the last how many months. We have obviously some new commissioners, so just kind of bringing them up to speed on some things. So some background on the project. Years ago, we coordinated with Duquesne Light for kind of a fleet analysis. And then within that fleet analysis, they took a look at obviously our fleet, but our electric vehicle charging stations infrastructure. And we had public facing ones at the overlook lot and also down in the south garage. We didn't have any fleet. So they analyzed some sites. They looked at what areas would be high traffic. Obviously, our heavy fleet at the police department, at the public safety building, public works site, and also as well here at the I would say the south garage / municipal way alleyway over here. So we conducted some site walks with Duquesne Light. They kind of, I don't want to say pivoted, but they introduced a program called the Make Ready program. And that's exactly, I guess it's called the Community Fleet and Transit Charging Program, but they like to call it that Make Ready program, where they would invest in these projects basically from the pole to the charging station. They would install that, they would design it, they would procure the infrastructure, and then they would ultimately kind of turn it over to us. But they would invest in that project. So that kind of got some wheels turning here. And then most recently, the Alternative Fuels Incentive Grant is through the state, it's the DEP, and we were awarded $20,000 for charging stations down at the public works site, and then $15,000 or $3,000 for 5 vehicles for vehicle purchasing. But that's working with DEP right now. I think that's a 2-year grant contract, so we have some time on that. But it also with the $3,000 per vehicle, it cannot be consolidated into one. It has to be $3,000 max for one vehicle. So they just gave us the opportunity to purchase 5. So might have to do some analyzing there. But what we're moving on here is with the charging station. So the location we currently have kind of keyed up is down at the public works site. So right near the fueling stations down there, there's 4 spots. Kind of highlighted in that blue box, there's 4 spots that are next to the handicap spots, and then kind of indication of that gold star is where the power pole is. That's where the transformers are, and that slightly blue, or the blue box that's slightly just south or down to the gold is the emergency backup generator. So within that site plan, we took a look at kind of the best option there, and we identified that these 4 spots with that kind of transparent blue box there would be the best, I would say the most feasible. One of the reasons why we didn't go just, I would say, north or up from that pole is there was a possible issue with the proximity of the charging stations up against that retaining wall. So we didn't want to lose the parking space length. So we decided it would be a lot easier to potentially put them where the sidewalk is. And a little bit of diagram, as you can see, that Duquesne Light gave us these preliminary drawings. Like I said, they're kind of responsible from the power pole, from the transformer to the charging stations. It's our responsibility to purchase the charging stations and install them, but they will be responsible for pretty much, like I said, the make-ready program aspect of it. So one of the other aspects as well is we did take a look at the public safety building. They didn't identify that as a primary project just due to the transformer size that's there, also with the proximity of the tunnel of the T station underneath. So we kind of looked at that, was kind of put towards the back burner as well. And then, like Andrew was mentioning with the south garage, didn't want to move forward with the potential fleet charging here at the south garage if we're going to be undertaking some massive construction there in the near future. So Public Works was the kind of the first one. So they indicated as well, those two kind of black dots were where the two charging stations would be. So there are two dual port charging stations, this would be a total of 4. And in that kind of location, it would be identified to make sure that it doesn't impact any type of parking that the Public Works crew members use. We talked with Duquesne Light, they usually mention bollards or parking curbs to kind of mitigate any potential collisions and things like that. But kind of getting into the project costs and funding aspect of it is, the charging stations we got from nationalcharging.com, we got a quote for 2 dual port charging stations, 80 amp chargers. Those are deemed as the level 2 chargers. So it's not your typical 120 volt home outlet, which would be level 1. And then level 3 is that direct current fast charger. So these are the level 2 chargers. We got a quote at $27,979 and some cents. That actually came down a little bit. The one indication we received from National Charging is that it would be somewhat of a procurement or a delay in procurement. As Andrew mentioned, we're waiting on some parking pay stations on a ship that if we would purchase charging stations, it may take some time. So that's kind of involved in that. So, and then another aspect of the funding, not so much cost, is that Duquesne Light commitment estimate. So they actually estimate a little bit more than 50,000. I think the last time I heard it was around 59. They usually just kind of give that $50,000 estimate of what they would estimate as the installation cost. But yeah, they would be fully responsible for those costs there. Like I said, they would be responsible for the pole or the infrastructure from the pole to the charging station. And they would be responsible for designing, purchasing, installing, and operating all of those functions, I would say. And then on the funding side of what we received is the AFIG award was the $20,000 I mentioned, was the strictly for the charging stations, and then I would say estimate around $10,000 for the municipality, which would be the remaining cost of the charging stations. So that $27,000 minus the $20,000, so that's about $7,900 there, and then miscellaneous around $2,000, which includes those bollards or parking curbs. Some repatching of any type of concrete if needed, so maybe some landscaping and things like that, but just some small contingencies. And then one other thing I wanted to mention that wasn't in this presentation is these aren't public charging stations. So these won't be available to the public. We won't have people being able to go down to the Public Works site to charge. These are strictly fleet. I was trying to grab examples from some site tours that we took around the, I would say the Connect region. Is we went out to, I think, West Mifflin, and they were redesigning their parking lot for the police department, and they had fleet charging stations. They're very similar to the ChargePoint ones we have at the Overlook lot in the South Garage. It just does not have that payment portal. It's just a simple key tap, kind of almost like our fuel log system at the fueling stations. And then I would say that would be pretty much it on the project itself. The next steps would basically be the authorization to proceed from the commission. We would then execute an agreement with Duquesne Light. We would then procure those charging stations and then potentially a late 2026, early 2027 installation, like I mentioned with those delays in the shipping and things like that. But if there are any questions.
Oh, I have so many questions.
Sure, feel free.
I guess my common sense says, why, I understood what you said about Public Works and why we should put it there, except we don't have any public works vehicles that are electric, do we? Am I missing something?
We do not.
I know the cart before the horse deal, I got it, totally understand. But what do we think the next cars are that we're going to be electrifying? Aren't they going to be like maybe you or, you know, and can't see you wandering down to Public Works and spending time so your car can be plugged in and charged. I'm missing something.
Well, I think if you look at that industry,
Yeah?
they're trending more towards the hybrids, right?
Oh, I have one, I got it, yeah,
Whether it's a plug-in hybrid or
right. Right,
we looked at this, the combination of the two available grants is the
Yeah.
ability to get essentially $77,000 worth of infrastructure for a $10,000 investment. Knowing that I think electric vehicles are going to continue to
oh yeah,
progress.
I love mine.
So we are going to get to that point, and if we have them, we're going to have to service them.
Mhm.
We're going to have to charge them. If we use them for other functions such as parking, right? We talked about using them for a parking vehicle.
Oh, sure, you could do
Right.
that, yeah,
Those could be overnighted or
right,
parked
they can be,
down
yeah,
there
yeah.
to charge. So again, a little different priority than what we had originally envisioned when we were talking about, potentially
Right.
moving
Sure,
quicker on a transition of the fleet. But given the, again, two available grant opportunities, we just wanted to bring it before the commission to see whether there was support to move forward.
well, I think that makes the most sense of all to me, the 77,000 or whatever we could get, 10,000 that we put in, then it makes some sense. But boy, I hope we can start thinking about putting some here, because I gotta tell you, the last time I filled up my tank was when I drove home from Florida in the middle of March, and I'm still at 3/4 of the tank. So it's,
And one other aspect of this
Great.
grant as well is that with the years that I've applied to this,
Yeah.
we've seen a little bit of the, I would say, funds deplete. So I don't want to say this grant is going away, it could not, but
Yeah.
it's one of the things where like Keith was mentioning, we received the grant, we're getting this pretty good return on
Sure.
a potential small investment, but, that was one of the things with the $3,000 per vehicle is in years prior, it was a much larger much larger number, and it was actually something we had to apply for 5 vehicles. We weren't allowed to just apply for 1 or 2, it had to be a group of vehicles, so.
trust me, $3,000 on a hybrid ain't nothing. They know that people want these because they're great. So,
And we've talked about even with some preliminary discussions related to the south garage.
yeah,
And however that comes back, there'll be a parking component,
yeah,
providing, I'll say,
oh, yeah,
sufficient expanded, obviously expanded, EV charging
mm-hmm,
capacity where that logically should be located,
mm-hmm,
both
Yeah.
from a proximity and from a, I'll say, fire safety standpoint.
yep,
Being able to access and get those vehicles quickly out of the structure if we need to.
Right.
So, EVs are not going away.
mhm,
It's a little ebb and flow right now based on current administration and
Mhm.
priorities. But they are here and
Yeah.
I think they're only going to
Yeah.
continue to move forward.
well,
So,
the gas price has been one of the best ways to push them, even though perhaps the administration doesn't like them. So, yeah.
again, we saw it as an opportunity for
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Significant savings
That's okay, yeah. And this one, we could use more spaces in the south garage when we rebuild, because I go in, when I come in for meetings and try to plug in, and most of the time it's got 2 cars there.
Yeah. And as Andrew
Not
mentioned,
always.
we have a pretty high number of permit holders in the south garage.
Yeah,
That will
continue to, yep.
when it comes back, and those residents,
Are gonna
percentage
want it.
are starting to,
Mhm. Sure,
purchase EVs and
Yeah,
will be
makes
access
sense.
to those stations.
okay.
Any other questions? No?
Nothing.
All right.
Well, you have time.
Yeah, lots.
Just briefly, because I know that we've talked about the South Garage a couple times this evening.
Yeah.
Thanks, Craig.
We have our first, the internal team has our first meeting with Ian Rom from CB Richard Ellis
Good.
on Thursday to get a status update on the RFP
Okay.
and where we stand on that. So
Have we issued it yet, or are we just?
Discussing the South Garage whenever you are, so please let me know.
go away. See how that works? No, we have not.
You're just
We're trying to
going to-
finalize.
Just trying to finalize it.
It automatically does with there this time.
Oh, if I had to turn that off, I was getting billed for that.
What do you expect that we'll issue the RFP and what's the,
Timeline?
sort of, yeah?
I will have an answer for the commission. I'll try to I'll put together a brief
Yeah,
package on
sure.
Friday.
Yeah, after you have your meeting, sure.
Once we've had the
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay, understood. So we have some luck on that.
Yeah.
Well, if nothing else, I think by getting it out on the street, if you will, we'll at least get some indication as to, interest and options, so.
Right.
What else you got, Brianne?
No, just wondering about the market volatility and how badly that's gonna affect going out on the street for stuff. It's too bad. But-
For the
So,
meeting on the 23rd for discussion session,
yeah,
something that we had talked about at the retreat. I've asked the inspections office to come in, do a presentation, give you an update on the software, also cover some historical trends about permit volumes.
yes.
Provide some information regarding turnaround times for
Right.
permits. So if there's something specific that I haven't on a high level identified there, please send it to me in an email. I'll have them add it to the presentation.
Okay.
That'd be much appreciated.
So I know that was I'll say much requested. They'll also cover the impacts of if they had an additional person doing permit reviews or like, what would the impacts potentially be there?
Good.
So trying to cover everything that we discussed during the retreat.
Sure.
Let's, Chief Haberman, can I put you on the spot for a second?
Okay.
How things come since the new legislation went into effect on the 5th?
Since the new, I'm sorry?
The new legislation at the state went into effect on the 5th for phones?
So we did a high visibility impact with all the departments on Route 19 from the city out to Peters Township. Really successful detail, getting everybody out and aware. It continues to, again, surpass DUI is our number one concern. The distracted driving really is something we're putting out there. We want to make sure that everybody understands to change their habits. It is a paradigm shift in how you live. There will definitely be an adjustment, a learning curve, and we will continue to hammer that. And I know with some help with a neighboring department to reinforce that and really get that messaging out, we're going to continue to do that. We'll continue to do that through PIO and everything else that we have at our disposal. So that's something we're very serious about. We'll continue to not waver on our commitment to making sure that people adhere to the law. It's very much a needed tool in our toolbox, and we're going to utilize it to the best for everyone.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody get pulled over for it today, in fact, so, good. I think that's great to
So
hear.
we're looking forward to that.
What's the fines for that?
Normal fine, 114, it's a $25 fine plus fees.
It was 50 plus costs.
Yeah, plus fees and costs, yeah. So ACP, everything associated.
I picked up my phone today at a stoplight to plug it in and thought, oh my God. I was sitting there, I thought I should plug this in, and I thought, oh my God, don't touch it. Radioactive.
We'll continue to be creative in how
Yeah.
we really reinforce that, but it is definitely something that, will have a direct impact on the safety of our roads, safety of our motoring and walking and bicycling in public, so. For sure. And the other thing, the byproduct that we're really looking at, we've actually talked to our local magistrate and others about this, is there's going to be a back-end insurance cost that will increase for people. And we always say, you know, we're probably the least of your worries in this conversation. Bless you. We're probably the least of your worries in a sense of not only enforcement part, but should you be found to be at fault in a crash. And
And you've
on
been using your phone, yeah.
there will be, you know, ramifications on the back end, just like any other violation that you would be charged with, an insurance company would find out about. So just something that we're learning, and we'll see what the fallout is, so to speak, for people as they continue to, again, hopefully adhere to it, but for those that don't, there'll be consequences.
Excellent. Well, sorry to put you on the spot, but I appreciate the update.
No, absolutely. No, glad to talk about it. It's something we spent a lot of time on and focused on, so appreciate the opportunity.
Good. Anybody have anything else?
Commissioner Petty just mentioned something to me, and I'm sure the commission saw it. We did a LEBO alert yesterday, just to remind people, because school's out now.
Right.
We have more children and people who are going to be out utilizing scooters, e-bikes, those types
Yep.
of things, just to remind them about some of the things they should be aware of. And, you know, I'm all for alternative forms of transportation, but I've been concerned about, I'm always very conscious when I come to a stop sign of making sure I come to a complete stop and looking.
Right.
I was on my way home the other day and I did that at the top of Larchdale, and here came a younger individual
Not
on an
stopping.
e-bike that went straight through the stop sign in Furwood. So again, just be careful and be aware.
What's up?
Yep.
Nothing else? We can
8 o'clock or
how about recess till 8. All right, see everybody in Commission Chambers at 8.
Right now.